Hello brothers and welcome to Sigma Old Man Channel. Some men walk alone not because they can't keep up, but because the crowd is going in the wrong damn direction. Pause on that. Let it sink in. Now here's the twist. Modern women don't just avoid these men, they secretly despise them. We're talking about Sigma males, lone wolves, silent operators. The men who don't ask for attention, but somehow get it anyway and then have the nerve not to care. And if you're thinking, but what's so hateable about being mysterious, independent, and emotionally bulletproof? Well, here's a fact. Over 80% of women in today's dating culture admit they prefer emotionally available, predictable men who communicate more. Translation? If you're not texting back in 0.3 seconds with a therapy session in hand, you're already on thin ice. Sigma males don't play that game. They're unbothered, unplugged, and emotionally unavailable. But not in the I need healing kind of way. More like, I see through this circus, and I'd rather watch from the rooftop with whiskey and headphones. That's why they trigger something deep, not curiosity, not admiration, but discomfort. Because these men can't be swayed, seduced, or shamed. They operate outside the system, and that makes them public enemy #1 in a world obsessed with control. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't just brutally honest. It's the uncensored truth behind why 97% of modern women hate Sigma males. And spoiler alert, it's not because they're doing something wrong, it's because they stop playing altogether. Number 1, Sigma males don't fake emotions to get laid. Sigma males don't fake emotions just to get laid. And that right there is a major problem in modern dating. Not for them, but for the women who are used to a certain emotional hustle. Most guys these days are experts at pretending to be more invested than they really are. They'll send long texts, ask deep questions, throw around compliments like candy, and play the sensitive man role to perfection, all to get into someone's bed. It's a performance, and a lot of women know it deep down, but they've also learned how to play the other side of that game. There's a mutual manipulation that's silently accepted. He fakes love, she fakes innocence, and everyone walks away pretending they didn't know better. But then, along comes the Sigma male. He doesn't play. He's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's not going to pretend to be interested in your dog, your crystals, or your vision board unless he actually gives a damn. He doesn't use charm as bait. He doesn't sell your dreams just to score points. He's honest. Maybe too honest. And that's the part most women aren't ready for. They're not used to a man who's so brutally clear about where he stands emotionally. If he's interested, you'll know. If he's not, he won't create false hope just to keep the option alive. That kind of clarity is rare and uncomfortable, because now there's no emotional leverage. You can't guilt him into being more affectionate. You can't seduce him with vulnerability and expect a knight in shining armor. He's not emotionally numb. He just doesn't weaponize emotions the way so many people have learned to do. That's threatening, especially in a dating culture where emotional manipulation is almost a default setting. The Sigma male strips away the fake layers and forces you to bring something real to the table, and for a lot of modern women who are used to controlling the emotional tone of a connection, that's infuriating. It feels cold, it feels harsh. But it's not. It's just real, and real is rare. When someone doesn't lie to you just to get you naked, you either appreciate the honesty or hate the lack of flattery. Most choose hate because the truth isn't romantic, it's disruptive. Number 2, Sigma. Males shatter the attention economy modern women thrive on. Sigma males completely dismantle the attention economy that modern women rely on to feel relevant. They don't fall into the trap of liking every filtered selfie, dropping flirty emojis on stories, or offering compliments just to stay on someone's radar. There's no digital flirting, no breadcrumbing, no playing the who can care less game, because they genuinely don't care to begin with. And that shakes the foundation of a culture built on instant validation. Most women today are used to a steady stream of male attention, whether they're interested or not. It's become the norm. Post something, and the likes pour in. It's not even about attraction anymore. It's about being seen, being wanted, and staying on top of that invisible hierarchy where the more men watching, the more power you hold. But Sigma males break that system by opting out of it entirely. They're not watching your stories. They're not engaging with your thirst traps. They don't feed that algorithm because they don't need to be seen to feel secure, and they don't need you to see them either. Their silence isn't passive. It's defiant. It says, "You're not the center of my universe." And in a world where most women are treated like they are, that stings. It's not that Sigma males are rude or disrespectful. They're just uninterested in performing for digital attention or feeding egos that live online. That refusal to participate feels personal to the women who expect every man to orbit around them like desperate planets around a sun. When a Sigma doesn't bite the bait, doesn't comment on the accidental cleavage post, doesn't slide into the DMs after the cryptic status update, that lack of reaction feels like an insult, and the truth is, it is a rejection, but not of the woman herself. It's a rejection of the whole system. Sigma males are too busy building their own world offline, while everyone else is busy begging for likes in a world that doesn't even exist. That refusal to feed the ego machine, it doesn't just confuse modern women, it irritates them. Because when someone walks away from a game you thought you were winning, you're forced to ask, was I ever actually in control? Number 3, you can't manipulate a man who doesn't need your presence to feel complete. You can't manipulate a man who doesn't need you. And that's exactly why Sigma males make people uncomfortable. These men don't chase affection, approval, or attention, and they sure as hell don't build their identity around whether someone stays or leaves. They're emotionally self-sufficient in a way that's almost alien in today's world. That unnerves anyone who's used to being the center of someone else's emotional world, especially in relationships where being needed is the secret weapon. Because when someone doesn't need you, the power play falls flat. Most people, men and women, are walking around low-key addicted to codependency, not necessarily the messy kind, but the subtle kind that comes with being someone's reason, their comfort, their emotional charger. It feels good to be needed. It makes you feel important, like you have leverage. But Sigma males remove that card from the deck. They don't need a relationship to feel whole, and they're not emotionally bankrupt waiting to be completed. That's not romance to them. That's just glorified dependency dressed up in cute captions. Try using guilt on a Sigma, won't work. Try using silence, withdrawal, passive-aggressive behavior. He'll match your silence with detachment so cold it'll feel like you never existed. You can't emotionally twist someone who isn't tangled in you to begin with. His calmness isn't a tactic, it's just how he lives. And that drives people nuts, because if someone isn't reacting, you lose control. A lot of women subconsciously expect to be the emotional anchor in a man's life. They want to be the reason he changes, improves, softens, or opens up. They want to be the turning point in his story. But the Sigma male already turned that corner alone years ago. There's nothing left to fix and no emotional vacancy to fill. He can want you, yes, but need you? Never. And that difference makes all the difference. When love isn't about survival or validation, you remove all the usual buttons people push to control you. That's what makes Sigma males terrifying. They're untouchable, not because they're distant, but because they're whole. And when you can't offer someone something they're not missing, manipulation dies before it even starts. Number 4, he's quiet, not because he's shy, but because he's busy calculating your BS. He's quiet, not because he's shy, awkward, or socially offbeat, but because he's watching, absorbing, and quietly calculating every layer of your behavior. His silence isn't empty, it's loaded. Most women mistake it for nervousness or social hesitation, when in reality he's already 10 steps ahead, studying patterns, analyzing inconsistencies, decoding intent. While most people rush to impress or charm their way into favor, Sigma males sit back and let the truth reveal itself. And when you realize he was never oblivious but actually dissecting your every word and move, it's already too late. Sigma males don't need to talk to dominate a room. They don't compete for attention. Their energy says more than their mouth ever will. In a conversation, they're not looking to show off or win approval. They're looking for substance. They're mentally filtering through the nonsense, testing for authenticity, checking if your words match your energy. And if they don't, you've already lost their interest, even if they're still sitting right in front of you. That's where most women get blindsided. They confuse his silence with softness, like he's passive or emotionally delicate. But they don't realize his calm is surgical. He watches your jokes, your reactions, your body language. He sees through performance, whether it's the overconfidence act, the overly sweet girl next door thing, or the too cool to care facade. He's not judging to be cruel, he's simply cutting through the fluff. He wants something real or nothing at all. And most people don't even realize they're being weighed, measured, and quietly dismissed until the silence turns permanent. The most unnerving part? He doesn't tell you what he sees. He doesn't correct, confront, or call out your inconsistencies. He just mentally checks out. You never hear the moment he decides you're not what you pretend to be. You just feel the distance growing colder. That's why women often circle back to him after things fall apart, because his silence wasn't ignorance, it was X-ray vision, and deep down they knew it. His quiet is a test. Most people fail because they don't realize they're being tested. He's not reserved, he's precise. And while everyone else is talking, performing, or trying to manipulate perception, he's sitting in the back of the room, quietly calculating the truth. And once he sees it, he never unsees it. Number 5, he's immune to beauty-based currency. Sigma males are flat-out immune to beauty-based currency. And in today's world, that's practically a superpower. While most men are wired to lose their minds over a pretty face or a well-angled thirst trap, the Sigma male doesn't flinch. Not because he doesn't notice beauty, he's not blind, but because he's trained himself not to be controlled by it. He doesn't hand over his time, attention, or soul just because someone looks good in a dress. That's what makes him untouchable in a culture that worships aesthetics over substance. Modern women are used to their looks opening doors, turning heads, and making men spin like tops. They've been taught, directly or indirectly, that beauty gives them bargaining power. And for most guys that works. A little skin, a flirty smile, a seductive glance, and suddenly he's rearranging his whole personality just to stay in her orbit. But Sigma males, they're not built like that. They see beauty the way they see art. It might be stunning, but it doesn't mean they're buying it or framing it in their house. He knows that looks are temporary, curated, often filtered to death. And most importantly, they're not a reflection of character, intelligence, or value. So when a woman tries to lead with her appearance, expecting the usual results, instant validation, attention, praise, the Sigma's lack of reaction feels like rejection, and not just rejection, but insult. Because if your entire identity has been shaped around being desired, and then a man walks in who's completely unfazed, it shakes something internal. It questions everything. She's playing a game he's already outgrown, and that's the part that stings. What makes it worse is that he sees through it all. He can tell when the hair, the makeup, the captions, and the angles are a performance. It's not that he judges it, he just doesn't respond to it. And when the usual weapons don't work, when beauty doesn't earn a reaction, when attraction doesn't equal access, frustration kicks in. Because a Sigma male won't be bought by looks. If you've got nothing behind the face, the game ends before it starts. That kind of resistance isn't just rare, it's maddening. And for women used to winning with appearances, his indifference feels like a personal attack. But it's not. It's just a man who refuses to worship what everyone else is too hypnotized to question. Number 6, they're uncancelable and unplugged. Sigma males are uncancelable and unplugged in a world where everyone's terrified of being judged, called out, or ostracized. They don't care about trending opinions. They don't live for likes, and they definitely aren't tailoring their thoughts just to stay palatable. That makes them dangerous, not in the reckless way, but in the free way. You can't shame someone who's immune to collective opinion. You can't silence someone who doesn't need your platform. You can't cancel someone who's not subscribed to your system to begin with. Most people today, especially in modern dating, play it safe. They say what they're supposed to, wear what the algorithm likes, post what gets approval, and keep their edges dull just to avoid offending anyone. Sigma males skipped that class entirely. They're not interested in pleasing the crowd or winning fake points for fake personalities. Their self-worth isn't linked to applause, validation, or public approval. So if a woman tries to use public shame, group pressure, or emotional blackmail to corner him into submission, it falls flat. He just doesn't care. This is especially infuriating for women who've learned to use social dynamics as power moves, the ones who threaten to expose, cancel, or humiliate a man into compliance. It works on most guys because most guys are terrified of being viewed as the villain, but the Sigma, he couldn't care less. He's not online begging for praise. He's not trying to fit into your perfect little mold. And the second you try to control him with fear, guilt, or exposure, he'll go ghost without a single ripple. What's more unsettling is that he doesn't explain himself. He doesn't launch into damage control or argue his case. He just exits your world with a silence so cold it feels surgical. That makes people feel powerless. Because how do you manipulate someone who doesn't fear loss? How do you threaten someone who doesn't crave acceptance? You can't. That's the Sigma's untouchable power. He's uncancelable, not because he's loud and rebellious, but because he's completely unowned. And in a world full of people glued to approval, his detachment is not only rare, it's terrifying. Number 7, Sigma males ghost effortlessly. And not to be toxic, but because they genuinely don't need closure. Sigma males ghost effortlessly, not to be toxic or dramatic, but because they genuinely don't owe you a monologue. Closure is a concept that makes sense to people who cling to emotional endings like cliffhangers in a TV show. But for Sigma males, there's no need for an exit scene when the connection no longer serves their path. They don't need to talk it out, wrap things in a bow, or provide a final emotional download. When they're done, they're just done. And they don't look back to see if you're standing in the wreckage or not. This throws people off, especially women who are used to being the ones who decide when something ends, how it ends, and whether someone is allowed to walk away without their approval. The Sigma doesn't ask. He doesn't announce his departure. He doesn't create drama. He just disappears like he was never there to begin with. Not to hurt you, not to leave a scar. Just because he doesn't require emotional ceremony to move forward. He's not powered by attachment. And he sure as hell isn't waiting for permission to let go. For those who use silence as a punishment or a control tactic, this kind of ghosting is something they can't handle. Because it's not silence meant to provoke, it's silence that doesn't care. It's not a test, it's not a game, it's just gone. And when you've been conditioned to expect men to chase, explain, apologize, or seek validation before they walk, a Sigma's cold detachment feels less like a breakup and more like a power outage. The lights go off, the energy disappears, and suddenly you're stuck talking to yourself in a room he's no longer in. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. A Sigma male doesn't linger in relationships that don't align with his values, energy, or direction. He won't give you a 10-point analysis on why he left, because he doesn't believe you're entitled to one. That kind of self-contained detachment is rare. Most people are emotionally entangled in the idea of being needed, heard, or understood before they can move on. But a Sigma, he closes the book mid-sentence and never reopens it. That's not cold. That's a man who knows he doesn't owe everyone a farewell letter just because they had a chapter in his life. Number 8, Sigma males question authority, including feminine entitlement. Sigma males are wired to question authority, and that includes the unspoken rule that women should be worshipped by default. They don't automatically roll out the red carpet just because someone exists in a female body. To them, respect isn't handed out like party favors. It's earned through character, integrity, and mutual value. That right there is enough to make them public enemy number 1 in a culture where feminine entitlement is often disguised as empowerment. We live in an era where many women expect royal treatment just for showing up. First dates that feel like job interviews, endless compliments, doors opened, bills paid, and egos fluffed, all in exchange for, well, just their presence. The Sigma male doesn't play that game. He's not bitter or angry about it, he simply sees through it. He doesn't believe in pedestalizing someone he barely knows. He's not impressed by surface-level charm, and he's definitely not hypnotized by beauty alone. That breaks the script many women rely on, where men fall in line and compete for approval without question. This kind of man is dangerous to the system because he refuses to follow the unspoken social protocol. He won't yes ma'am his way into your heart. He'll challenge your thinking. He'll expect accountability. He'll treat you as an equal, not a goddess. That sounds great on paper until you realize equality also means no special treatment just because you're used to it. And when women come across a man who refuses to be controlled by flattery, guilt, or old-school chivalry with no foundation, it offends them, because it feels like rejection even when it's really just fairness. Sigma males aren't trying to be difficult, they're just allergic to blind obedience. They don't believe anyone, man or woman, deserves respect without proof of substance. And when you take away automatic worship, when you make someone actually earn emotional investment, it flips the whole power structure upside down. That's why they're often seen as arrogant or cold, because they don't participate in the reward system most people are addicted to. And when you don't validate someone's entitled expectation of how they should be treated, you instantly become a threat. Not because you're wrong, but because you didn't follow the script. And Sigma males, they burn the script before the first line is even read. Number 9, Sigma. Males are self-tamed wolves, not lapdogs. Sigma males are self-tamed wolves. They've already wrestled with their own chaos, their impulses, their shadows, and came out the other side disciplined on their own terms. That makes them fundamentally different from men who wait for a relationship to civilize them. You don't need to teach a Sigma how to act right. He already knows. And more importantly, he's chosen his code, not yours. That's why trying to domesticate him is like trying to put a leash on a storm. He might let you close, but you'll never control the direction. A lot of women don't admit it, but there's an unspoken thrill in the idea of fixing a man, taking someone wild and slowly taming them, training them to become more emotionally available, more soft, more obedient, more predictable. It feeds a subtle sense of power. It's not always malicious. It's just deeply ingrained. But the Sigma doesn't offer that opportunity. He comes already forged. He's been through the fire, burned off the excess, and made peace with himself without needing a partner to complete the transformation. So, for women who seek identity in shaping a man, the Sigma gives them nothing to mold, no raw clay, no soft spots to manipulate, just solid stone with a mind of its own. That's infuriating. Because the Sigma male doesn't ask for emotional training wheels. He doesn't wait around to be fixed, applauded, or shaped into someone else's vision of the ideal boyfriend or husband. He won't play dumb to stroke your ego, and he won't change his direction just because your emotions flare. And the kicker: he's not rebellious for the sake of rebellion. He's just deeply indifferent to control. He's respectful but not submissive, present but not obedient. When women realize they can't slowly turn him into a docile pet or a predictable partner who jumps on command, it shakes them. Not because he's cruel, but because he reminds them of something rare. A man who has already conquered himself and refuses to be conquered again. He doesn't need to be told what a real man is. He is won by his own definition. And if that doesn't match your expectations, he's fine walking alone. You can't tame what was never meant to serve. You either run with the wolf or get left behind. Number 10. They don't believe in relationship obligation. Sigma males don't believe in the concept of relationship obligation, and that disrupts the entire modern dating system. They're not wired to hand over time, attention, affection, or emotional bandwidth just because they're in a relationship. For them, being someone's boyfriend, husband, or partner isn't a free pass to entitlement. It's just a title, not a transaction. You still have to earn their energy day by day with respect, honesty, and real value. And that brutal meritocracy, it drives people insane, especially those who think simply existing in a romantic setup means automatic access to everything. This is where things get uncomfortable, because a lot of people, knowingly or not, walk into relationships thinking, well, now that we're together, I'm entitled to your attention, your loyalty, your time, your money, your emotional labor, whether or not I'm actually showing up at my best. But the Sigma male doesn't care about the label. He watches the actions. He's the type who will love you deeply, but still not tolerate laziness, disrespect, or emotional freeloading. And that flips the usual power structure. Most modern dynamics thrive on assumption, assuming that being in a relationship comes with automatic perks, not with a Sigma. To him, the connection only works if both people bring something real to the table. Not just feelings, not just expectations, substance. He's not cold-hearted. He's just deeply self-respecting. He's not going to chase, overextend, or perform emotional labor for someone who thinks the title gives them lifelong backstage access. And when he withdraws that access because it's not being reciprocated, it feels like betrayal to people who've only known relationships as comfort zones, not growth zones. Sigma males aren't interested in babying partners who expect princess treatment with peasant effort. They don't fake romance out of duty. They don't validate for the sake of peace. They give based on value, not obligation. And when someone realizes the relationship doesn't guarantee attention, affection, or priority unless they earn it, it hits hard. It feels cold. It feels unfair. But it's not. It's just rare. Most people are used to dating someone who gets comfortable and starts coasting. With a Sigma, there's no coasting. There's no entitlement. You either stay worthy or you slowly fade into irrelevance. Number 11. Sigma males are uninterested in saving a broken woman. Sigma males are deeply uninterested in saving a broken woman, and not out of cruelty, but because they refuse to play therapist to someone who hasn't even started doing the work on themselves. They don't romanticize trauma. They don't confuse emotional chaos with depth. and they definitely don't see pain as a shortcut to intimacy. That whole fix-me fantasy, a woman arriving with emotional baggage, expecting him to unpack, sort and heal it while falling in love with her potential, collapses instantly in front of a Sigma. He doesn't date potential, he doesn't date projects. He builds empires, not rehab centers. It sounds harsh, but it's just honest. A lot of women, knowingly or not, carry a belief that their wounds make them automatically deserving of someone's full emotional service, that being broken is somehow endearing, and that a real man will show his love by proving he can handle all her damage. But the Sigma male isn't wired that way. He won't shame you for having a past, but he will hold you accountable for not dealing with it. If you're drowning in unresolved issues and expect him to throw in a lifeline and dive in after you, he won't. He'll let go of the rope and walk away. Not because he's cold, but because he respects himself enough not to be dragged into someone else's emotional quicksand. What makes this even more frustrating is that Sigmas have the depth, the intelligence, and the presence that could make a woman feel healed. But they won't weaponize that. They won't feed into your brokenness to keep you attached. They're not interested in codependent chaos disguised as love. They want a partner, not a patient. They want someone who's already done the hard internal work, not someone auditioning for emotional rescue. That's why women who rely on being saved hate Sigma males. He won't fall for the tears. He won't get addicted to the drama. And he won't mistake your trauma dump for emotional intimacy. He can hold space, but only for those who hold themselves accountable. So if you come to a Sigma looking for a savior, you'll be disappointed. He's not here to fix what you refuse to face. He's building a life, not a shelter. And if you're still living in survival mode, he'll wish you well, from a distance. Number 12. They challenge your identity instead of protecting your ego. Sigma males don't coddle your ego, they challenge your identity, and that's what makes them so dangerous to the illusion. While most men play the compliment game to either maintain peace or fast-track their way into affection, Sigma males aren't interested in telling you what you want to hear. They'll tell you what you need to face. They're not here to inflate your sense of self so you feel untouchable. They'll calmly hold up a mirror and let the silence show you what's real. And for many, that reflection is brutal. Most people, especially in dating, rely on external validation to feel worthy. They build their identity off of how desired they are, how much attention they attract, how many compliments they collect. But a Sigma doesn't play into that currency. He's immune to charm, he sees beneath performance. He can spot insecurity wrapped in confidence from a mile away, and he doesn't reward it with fake praise. That's not cruelty, it's clarity. And when someone's entire persona is built on surface-level validation, his refusal to play along feels like an attack. When a woman used to being pedestalized meets a Sigma, her usual tactics fall flat. He doesn't get dazzled, he doesn't overcompensate, he doesn't try to win her. Instead, he asks deeper questions. He notices inconsistencies. He sees the parts of her she hides from everyone else and doesn't look away. He's not mean, he's accurate. And that kind of sharp, grounded presence rattles people who rely on illusions to feel powerful. This is the kind of man who will calmly ask, "Why do you really act like that?" after a tantrum instead of apologizing for triggering it. He'll point out your contradictions, call out your double standards, and not in a petty way, in a deeply centered way. That makes people uncomfortable, especially if they're used to men who tiptoe around their emotional landmines just to stay close. The Sigma isn't afraid of losing you if it means staying honest. He won't protect your ego at the expense of your growth, and that's why most people can't handle him. He doesn't play the role of admirer, he plays the role of revealer. And in a world where so many are terrified of being seen for who they really are, that kind of man isn't just rare, he's threatening. Because he doesn't chase illusions, he breaks them. In a world that runs on validation, performance, and emotional manipulation, the Sigma male is an unshakable glitch in the system. He doesn't play by the rules, not out of rebellion, but because those rules were never designed for someone like him. He moves on principle, not pressure. He values truth over tactics. He chooses solitude over superficiality. And in a culture that thrives on attention, that makes him both mysterious and threatening. Modern women, especially those who have grown accustomed to emotional leverage, find Sigma males almost impossible to navigate. You can't seduce him with aesthetics. You can't guilt-trip him with emotional theatrics. You can't pull him into your world with bait made of trends, tears, or temptation. He's immune to the traditional tools of influence because he's not seeking approval, applause, or even acceptance. He's not chasing anyone's fantasy. He's just chasing his own clarity. And that clarity cuts deep. It exposes what most try to hide. While others are busy performing or pretending, he's studying, quietly, sharply, relentlessly. That kind of inner precision is uncomfortable to be around. It forces people to confront their masks. It makes others feel seen in ways they didn't ask for. And that's the twist. Sigma males don't hurt people on purpose. They just don't indulge illusions. And for anyone whose power lies in controlling perception, that's unbearable. But what truly makes Sigma males a problem for the modern dating matrix is this. They cannot be controlled because they do not need. Not your presence, not your praise, not your permission. They operate outside the emotional economy where most people trade affection for attention, presence for power, and sex for status. He doesn't audition for love, he doesn't prove his worth, and he'll never sell his soul just to be chosen. He already chose himself a long time ago, so yes, 97% of modern women hate Sigma males, but not because they're cruel, toxic, or arrogant. They hate them because they're untouchable, unbothered, unmoved. They walk through the noise of modern chaos with their own rhythm, their own rules, and their own sense of purpose. You can't cage a man like that. You can only either rise to meet him or be left confused by the silence he leaves behind. That's the raw truth. Not everyone's ready for it, but the Sigma male doesn't care. He never needed them to be. If this hit you deep, challenged your thinking, or opened your eyes to a truth no one dares to say out loud, don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button and join a tribe that doesn't follow the crowd but questions the entire system. Drop a like if you respect the mindset and comment below. Whether you love it, hate it, or felt personally attacked, we want to hear your raw, unfiltered thoughts. No fluff, no filters. And if you've got a friend who needs to hear this, someone still chasing ghosts or getting played by the game, share this video with them. Let the truth do what it does best. Wake people up. This isn't just content, it's a call to mental freedom. And trust me, you'll want to be here for what's coming next. Stay sharp, stay rare, and I'll see you in the next one.